Well, let's get some further reaction. And from Melbourne, we're joined by Daniel Webb, Senior Lawyer with the Human Rights Law Centre. Daniel Webb, good to speak to you. Let me ask you first, is this legal?
Well, I mean, look, just last week, the UNHCR released a report saying that the human rights of people we were transferring to Manus Island were being violated. The report said in quite damning terms that their indefinite arbitrary detention breached international law and that the conditions in detention fell short of international standards. What we've heard today is that thousands more people are going to be sent to those conditions. So I think on that front, there's clearly going to be issues under international law. Second, the Refugee Convention makes it unlawful for a country to penalise asylum seekers based on the mode of arrival. And what we've heard today is a policy that anyone arriving by boat, and only those arriving by boat, will never be allowed to permanently resettle in Australia and will be transferred offshore. That, I think, sounds very much like a penalty.
Do you expect a legal challenge?
Well, look, I mean, it's difficult to predict. We rule nothing out at this stage. At the moment, we've just heard a policy announcement. I think it will be very important to sort of closely scrutinise the details of the policy and the reforms that will enable its implementation.
We've heard from the opposition's immigration spokesman, Scott Morrison. He says this could well become a lawyer's picnic with people trying to seek injunctions to stop transfers. How likely is that?
Look, I think it'll be anything but a picnic. I think that lawyers concerned with the human rights of their clients will be looking at ways that they can prevent their clients from suffering really significant harm, and I think that's to be expected, and I think that's reasonable.
How would you describe the conditions in Papua New Guinea where these people will be resettled, assuming that they are deemed to be refugees?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me to comment on what life is like in PNG, but what I can say, I mean, I think the UNHCR is better positioned than anyone to comment on what the conditions are like for people we've transferred there to date. And their report, released just last week, was unequivocal. Those standards, those conditions violate international law.
You've said that there's likely to be a huge financial cost associated with this policy. How so?
Well, I mean, prolonged detention of large numbers of people in remote places and then, you know, the services associated with dealing with the harm that they will inevitably suffer. None of that's cheap. It's expensive, and it's a tragedy that that money could be spent in a way that deals with the asylum seeker issue in a much more constructive way.
Daniel Webb from the Human Rights Law Centre, thanks very much.
Thank you.